Good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse with ROI Safety Services, and welcome to our update for OSHA. Basically, just a reminder. I wanted to put together a quick reminder of just some training that needs to get done annually, and there really isn't a whole lot of updates outside of the state of California. I mean, there's some. I just read this morning that there is a freeze on all new OSHA regulations. I briefly read that. So there's some heat illness regulations that I think are on pause for now and they're being reviewed. I think there's a 30-day review on that. In the state of California, there's been some changes, definitely with silica and with heat illness indoors, and workplace violence is the other big one, but that's been since July. Those are the big ones that have they're more recent. But I think a lot of the federal OSHA regulations are going to be paused for a while. And California, they're pretty much doing whatever they want to until they can't. So I'm sure that those are going to be pushed through pretty quick. But what I'd like to cover today is what programs need to get done. I'm more concerned about getting the basics done every year. And what we see as a consultant, a safety training company, is we go into a company, we look at their programs, we match the programs up with the standard and then the industry that they're in, and then we look at training, and then of course we need training records. Now, years ago, I learned something that has always stuck with me. It didn't happen unless you document it. And so now is the time in 2025 that we start documenting everything. So all these programs, all these trainings that we have to complete that cycle: planning, doing, checking, and acting. So I would encourage you, whether you're a small business, especially if you're a small business, or a large business over 100 employees or more, is that you really get in the habit of documenting everything. And here's a really, really important part of that documentation process is a disciplinary program. I would also make sure that your disciplinary program is in line with your HR manual. However they're disciplining, it's usually the same kind of thing. But whatever process you use for that, make sure that you have a process in place, in writing, and you have objective evidence that you're actually doing it. Because if you don't, you do not have an effective program. So I want you to understand that when you do confined space, when you do EAP training, lockout, tagout, all of these programs, they have processes. So confined space, you provide training in a classroom. You cover the standard required training within that standard or within your program, and whatever is site specific. So if it's a JJ Keller video you're throwing on and then you're going to go to a confined space, that doesn't cut it. It needs to be done at your location where you're going to do the confined space, and it must be site specific. And you must have training records, whether you do training in-house or you go off-site. I'm not a big fan of doing training off-site if they don't address your issues. And how do they address your specific issues if they're not there? So I encourage you, videos are fine, but you got to supplement the video with site-specific training. And here's the other thing. You need to have training done with a competent and qualified person, whether by education, experience, training. And so these are the requirements for having an effective program. Again, I'll repeat it. Throwing on a video is only part of the training. It's a very small part. Everything should be done to your location, what you're actually doing, and it must be site specific. You must have records of the training. You must have disciplinary action. Because if you have 100 people and you don't have anybody written up, that's a problem. If you have 10 people and you don't have anybody written up, probably not a big deal. You have a really good crew, but when you start getting into the higher numbers, 40, 50, 60, you're gonna have some write-ups. So that's just something that, ROI, when we go do an inspection or a gap analysis, we look at these things. So I'll just briefly cover these standards just so you can, whether you do confined space or not, it's just good to know you may encounter it. So anyone who has any confined space entry at your location, you need to identify them. And even if you're not going to enter them, you must identify them. So I'm not going to go over it in detail, but if you have them, identify them, put them on some kind of spreadsheet, take pictures of them, put signage up. And if you are doing confined space, get training. Everybody needs to have an EAP planning. I don't care if you are 100% administrative. You have to have an EAP plan. How do you get out of your office safely? And here's this. I always like this. For employees with 10 or fewer workers, plans can be communicated verbally. I don't care how you do it, just get it done and make sure that you have an effective program. The thing with this verbally, whatever OSHA allows us to do, is silliness. If you're not communicating effectively to your employees how to get out of a building, you're going to have some problems. So the best way to do that is to have a meeting with them. Document the meeting. Yes, I don't care if you have 7 people. Document you went over the emergency action plan. You did a drill, or you did some sort of testing of the system. Super important, whether you're in a lab or a administrative building, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you guys do this. This is really important that you have documented training. It just needs to get done so that you have objective evidence. It could take that one person that you overlook. Oh, they didn't sit in on our training. They're the ones who doesn't know where to go, and maybe they get hurt getting there. Then it's going to be on you. Now, lockout tagout, another really important one. This one isn't usually overlooked by industry, but not always effective. And so what I mean by that is, some people will have a system in place, but it doesn't meet all the requirements. So take a good look at your lockout tagout program. Nothing really has changed here. It's just make sure you have training for effective individuals and authorized individuals. And effective individuals could be anybody who walks into a place where there could potentially be a lockout tagout, which is basically everybody. So just, the effective training could be 10 minutes. It's not a detailed training program. And it could be a site-specific email where you just email it out to everybody, or you do a short little video and send it out. I like doing that for small little trainings like that. But when you have affected and you have authorized, the authorized individuals, which is usually maintenance, they need a much more in-depth site-specific training. How your system is working, who's authorized, what is your process for locking and tagging out, what is your inventory, what can be locked and tagged out. So there's a lot of process, or a lot of steps to get the process dialed in. Then we have another program, fire extinguishers. If you have them, you have to train your folks how to use them. It's that simple. And if you want to just pull one off the wall and pull it, aim it, squeeze it, and sweep, good luck. But if you don't have proper training on how to aim it properly, and actually know how to squeeze it to get the material out and to aim it, it's going to be a tough one to do in a real life situation. So we definitely encourage you to get some training, get some hands-on training. And then HAZWOPER, hazardous waste operations, doesn't mean you need a 40-hour class or a 24-hour class, but you need some kind of training. If you're a large quantity, if you have more than typically 4 drums a month of hazardous waste, you definitely need to have some specific training. It could be as little as 4 hours. It could be as much as 40 hours. It just depends on how much material you're moving and what industry you're in, but it does need to be done at some level in most companies. It's very common to be overlooked. What I see more than anything with these industries that do need it is they go for the 40-hour training when they only need maybe the 24 or maybe the 8. So just because you have some hazardous waste doesn't mean you need the 40-hour. If you're a small quantity generator, you may not need much. You may need just your RECRA training, which is a basic training. It's very simple. Or you may need the 40-hour if you're doing emergency response at your site. You're doing cleanup, waste profiling, and managing the whole scenario. Then yeah, you need the 40. Or if you're a hazardous waste recycling company or a treatment facility, you need to have the 40-hour. So take a look at that. Make sure you're not, I would never want to say, oh yeah, that's too much training. But in some cases, you may have too much training and you want to get what you need. You want to get added value training. Now, HazCom is a big deal. It is probably the most overlooked training program we see out there. And it really is one of the most important, because if you're dealing with chemicals, you got to have training that is site specific. And here's the key word: your employees need to not only know that you have a HazCom program, but they need to understand it. And that is key. Understanding is the key to this program. So when I go to a client or we do a walkthrough and I ask an employee, hey, can you show me where your safety data sheets? They usually do this. They point. They go like that. Well, the next question is going to be, can you show me how to read it? Do you understand the product that you're dealing with? If they're dealing with isopropyl alcohol, can you tell me what the hazards are? And they must be able to tell me what the hazards are. It's a flammable liquid. If I'm moving it from one container to the next, I need to bond and ground it. They should know these details. Your shipping and receiving department should also be very well versed in how to handle hazmat material. So the training goes beyond just putting on a video. Videos for this is really a great idea, but we need to talk also about your specific safety data sheets that you're keeping at your location, how to read them, and how to understand them. This is a big one, guys, especially if you're in the state of California where we have Prop 65. And yeah, if you have Prop 65, you're going to be on a hit list. Powered industrial trucks, again, any type of material moving. So you got pits, you got various lifts, overhead handlers. This needs to be done every 3 years, or if you have an accident or a near miss. And ROI offers a train the trainer program, which I recommend everybody do in-house. It's a much more effective program. ROI, we provide this to a lot of clients all over the state and all over the country, actually. And so we want you to know that we can support you with that, especially with the Train the Trainer program. We also want to cover respirators is another. This is another one that we hear clients say, oh yeah, we have a program, and oh, let's take a look at your respirator program. The first question I ask is, why are you wearing it? And the response typically is, oh, because I deal with this product. And I go, have you ever had an industrial hygiene test? No. So it always brings me back to the first question. Why are you wearing a respirator? If you don't know why, if you have not had any industrial hygiene sampling done and you're just wearing one because you feel better, that is not a good reason to wear a respirator. Please reevaluate why you're wearing it. The other part of this is getting a fit test, getting a pulmonary fit test and a pulmonary function test, and then a fit test. How often do you do each of these? Well, you have to do a fit test at least annually, or if you have any facial changes or weight gain, weight loss is what the standard says. Typically, I would just do one every year. If you have a change of respirator, you definitely want to get a fit test. And then the annual pulmonary function test is basically going to be directed by your physician, so whatever they tell you to do. This program is the most overlooked program when it comes to annual actionable things that need to get done. And then, of course, PPE, another one. Everyone just says throw on some safety glasses, throw on some hearing protection, and there's no real objective data as to why we're wearing hearing protection. I was in a site the other day, and I walk out. Why are we wearing hard hats, and why are we wearing hearing protection? And they had really no response to why. And we need to know why we do certain things, okay? It's not just because, we feel that we need to have a hard hat on. Well, when you have a 5,000-pound machine moving stuff around that is of equal weight, the hard hat is not going to help you. So we need to have some common sense here. Why are we wearing a hard hat? Does it make sense? What will it be protecting us against? So if you're on a construction site, of course you wear one, because you can have tooling and pieces falling and reflecting off your hard hat is a good thing. But a hard hat will not protect you against something that weighs 2,000 pounds. You're going to die. So let's use some common sense when we start using hard hats and hearing protection and respirators. We need to do our due diligence, not just wear it because we were told to. We need to be responsible for our safety, not only in our own lives, but at work and everywhere else if we want to have success in our lives, right? We need to be responsible. So these are the major programs that I wanted to cover this session. I didn't want to spend a lot of time in any kind of OSHA specific updates other than, silica in California is a big deal. Workplace violence is a big deal. I'm still not even sure how that's playing out right now. We have a lot of customers that we help them with the workplace violence program. We've had people with issues. And then I've contacted OSHA Outreach, or actually OSHA Consult, and they're not even sure how they're going to enforce it. So I don't know what's happening with that. Heat illness indoors, that's something that we definitely need to take a closer look at in the coming months in California, but the feds put a pause on it. At least that's what I just read this morning, which, everything needs to be evaluated again at the federal level. So that's a wonderful thing. And I can't think of anything else other than there's going to be again, the Fed side, there's going to be some lower thresholds with certain products and chemicals. So we'll see that. California it is what it is here. If you're in California, just keep plugging away, get these programs dialed in. OSHA's running really, really thin with inspectors. So if you get inspected, that's going to be pretty rare, unless you're in the silica, unless you're doing any kind of silica work, sand, construction, that sort of thing. They're really looking at that. And then I think the COVID requirements are going to be not that they ever really added any value for us. I think we're all clear on that these days. At least I hope so. If not, get your head out of the sand. All right, my name is Jesse. I am the owner of ROI Safety Services, and I appreciate each of you for viewing this. Give me your feedback. If you want any specific training for any kind of topic, let me know. If you want to find out more about what we do, go to roisafetyservices.com. You can even shoot me a text, 714-520-1608. I think I could put it in the chat. I don't know if it'll come out to the YouTube side, but here it is. Appreciate your time. Have a wonderful weekend, and God bless you.